What's new, crew? My name is Cassandra. If you're new today, we're doing a crush with Cassie or get it all done with me. Lots of just little projects, big projects, all the projects. But we're starting this morning down in my weed bed, formerly known as my garden. It's wild. I totally let it go during canning. I haven't done anything down here. Have not pulled one weed in weeks. But I'm coming down here. I'm going to pick as much tomatoes as I can. I've got Brussels sprouts that need to come up, peppers that need to come up. It is so hot this morning. It's supposed to get up into the 90s today. And then for the next 3 days, it's supposed to rain. So my plan is to get down here, pick everything that I can, and get back inside and spend the rest of the day inside until it cools off again later this evening. So I've got my buckets. I've got my big harvest wagon here. And let's get to picking. I want to go ahead and start with my tomatoes, which is in this weed forest here. I'm only gonna come down and pick my big ones. I'm not gonna worry about my cherries right now. Perhaps later tonight when my older girls get home from school, I can send them down here with some ice cream buckets and they can pick the cherries for me. But let's fill up this basket full of tomatoes. I did not intend for this to happen. This isn't even all the tomatoes, this is just one row. These are all the peppers that were a decent size. I have to go back and finish picking Brussels sprouts, but I think Cleo's just about done, so I'm going to hurry up and try to see if I can pick the rest of these Brussels sprouts, and then we're gonna have to go in and process some of this stuff. I already have another 5-gallon bucket of tomatoes, so we're overflowing at this point and needs to get done, so that's what we're gonna do today, I guess. I definitely did not anticipate having this many tomatoes, and I still have 3 more rows to pick, but we have to go in and process some of this stuff. So let's figure out what we're gonna make. I think we're just gonna go inside. Cleo's about done with outside for right now. It's very hot. So we might just call this good, come out later tonight and finish picking the Brussels sprouts, or maybe when she naps. But let's go inside and figure out what we're doing with this stuff. This is what I'm working on today. This is page 208 of the ever so famous home preservation cookbook. We're just gonna do this house salsa today. I've got everything for it. It does call for plum tomatoes. I don't have plum tomatoes. I have slicing tomatoes. It's not going to be that big of a difference. It's just gonna be a little watery, which is a-okay with me. I also don't have any hot peppers. I'm not gonna make this hot, but you can. It does have the variation over here for some hot peppers here. So we're also gonna do some stewed tomatoes. I talked recently about not wanting to do diced tomatoes because my family doesn't eat them. But I figured we could do some stewed tomatoes. So all I have in here are tomatoes that are cored and sliced with some salt just to help cook it down a little bit. We're gonna cook this down, and I'm also going to add probably some basil and oregano because that's what I like to add in my stewed tomatoes. Like, that's how I buy them from the store. So that's what I'm gonna do here, and we'll can up some stewed tomatoes. And then I have some cored tomatoes here that we're gonna make for our house salsa. I've never made salsa this way. I've always just used like salsa packets. So I'm kind of excited to give this a go. I'm just going to chop these, put them in my 4-cup measuring cup here so that I can measure out 10 cups of tomato. Okay, so we have 10 cups of tomatoes here. Now we're gonna move on to peppers and onions, but I still have this pretty full of cored tomatoes. And I remember my husband sharing this Instagram reel with me where someone made basically gallon-sized freezer bags full of like fresh salsa mix. So you take your cored tomatoes like this, you add in some peppers and some onions, you put it in a Ziploc freezer bag, put it in the freezer, and then throughout the winter you can make fresh salsa on the stove. And I thought that that might actually be a good way to use up the tomatoes that I have here with some of the peppers as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that stuff prepped as well. I'm gonna pull out my gallon-sized bags, and I'm gonna move these over so that I can put my stuff for my salsa in here. So let's do that, and then I'll prep peppers and onions for both the salsa that we're gonna make today and then the salsa freezer bags, just to get through some more of these tomatoes. This would be a really good idea for, we do game nights pretty often with my family, so this would be fun to do like fresh salsa for game night. So I think that'll be a bag. Just working through some of these tomatoes. I'm going to try my best to only work during my baby's nap time today. My husband actually has night school tonight as well, so it's just gonna be me with the kids today. All right, let me say, if you are ever feeling a little stuffy, just cut up some onions. Holy schmolies, my eyes are still watering. All right, so these are ready to go. I'm going to kind of get as much air out of them as I can. I'm not labeling these because I'm not gonna mistake these for anything else. I'm gonna suck as much air out as I can. And then I will go put these downstairs in one of my chest freezers, and I'm also going to take that opportunity while I'm down there to carry up some jars so that we can get those going in the dishwasher so that they are ready for when I need them later. So we got 4 bags of freezer salsa, which is awesome. Very excited about those. Those will be really fun for game nights. Now we have our beautiful salsa mixture here. I'm going to see what else we need here, get that going, and cook this down on the stove while I'm kind of carrying things around. Our stewed tomatoes are also looking fabulous. I'm wiping these right into my scrap bucket. I'm not wiping them onto my floor. I am not a heathen. Alrighty. But no judgment if you wipe that on the floor. I wipe my stuff on my floor all the time. Alrighty, we're gonna need a little bit of garlic. I'll get that out of my refrigerator. All right, the last couple things we have to put in here are our garlic, oregano, sugar, hot sauce, cumin, and salt. So this is actually my hot sauce. I canned this over the weekend. Super easy to do. I have a video on this coming up. Very simple, but it's delicious, and it is very spicy. It's calling for a tablespoon of hot sauce. I nor my family like a lot of spice, so I'm just gonna do half a tablespoon because I can always add more, but once it's in there, it's in there. And I've never made this recipe before, so I don't know. So we're gonna do half a tablespoon, and I can always come back and add more. We're gonna get this up on the stove and cooking down. I'm gonna read over the instructions one more time to make sure I'm understanding fully, and we'll get this going. Okay, I have everything on that I need to. Rereading over my salsa instructions, I'm realizing I wasn't supposed to add the spices right away, but that's okay. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal, so everything is on. I'm gonna let these cook down. My stewed tomatoes are looking fabulous. They are just about ready. I'd say another 20 minutes. They'll be perfect. So I'm going to clean out my kitchen here. I'm gonna empty out my dishwasher, clean up my mess. I have my jars from my last canning project still up here. I wanna get those carried down. I think I have 30 jars up here of hot sauce and more pasta sauce. I wanna get those carried downstairs. Just get everything a reset here and get my crock pot meal in. I think because we're making all this salsa, I think I might do my queso chicken tacos for supper tonight. And then because I still have a ton of tomatoes, I might make a second batch of salsa and just leave it out, keep it in the fridge, and we'll use that as basically meal prep over the week. I can put it in kids' lunches. My husband can take some to work for him. Maybe we can eat nachos later in the week with the leftover queso chicken. Let's go ahead and, I'm trying to think what I should do first. Let's empty my dishwasher and get my jars in. And once we get that done, we will get our crock pot meal prepped because that's only gonna take. Okay, we need 2 cups of chicken stock. I have 2 cups of water here. This is my favorite chicken base. I get this from a local Amish like wholesale shop, I guess, like a Amish market. It is the best chicken broth. They make this like in-house. It's fantastic. A little goes a long way, and I love this because I also put herbs in here. It's so good, you guys, and it's pretty inexpensive. This is $5. And for a really clean ingredient chicken stock, I just can't get over it. It's so good. It makes the best soups and stews. So I'm just going to dump this in. I'm gonna add some taco seasoning. I'm gonna plug this in, let this cook. Then a little bit later, we'll add in some queso and a little bit of salsa, and it'll be fantastic. So we're gonna make a second batch of salsa, and that's what we'll put in here later. So let's get this bad boy plugged in, but let's top it with some taco seasoning. Give it a little taco seasoning. And all we have to do is plug it in and let the crock pot do the work for me, and I don't have to worry about this later. So let's try to find a spot on my counter that's cleared off where I can plug this in, shall we? Because there's not a lot of room. Cleo is still napping, so what I'm gonna do is start carrying these jars from my last canning project downstairs, and then if I can get all those carried down and she's still napping while things are cooking down, I have like 6 baskets of laundry I'm gonna sit down and fold. So I'm just gonna turn on a show, fold some laundry, and that's kind of my plan while things cook down. It's gonna be a little bit, like I said, once everything's cooked down, I'm just gonna turn it all off, wait for my jars to be done sanitizing and being cleaned by my dishwasher, and then we'll come back this afternoon during her second nap and get everything canned and packed. I'm actually just about done. Both my canners are being filled and getting up on the stove. I ended up straining off my stewed tomatoes and decided just to do tomato juice. We use that way more than stewed tomatoes. I think that makes more sense for me. Depending on how many tomatoes I end up pulling out of the garden, I might end up doing a batch of stewed tomatoes anyways, but I think this is gonna work best for us. So I'm gonna get my canners up on the stove, getting those warmed up, start filling some jars and getting stuff going. We're gonna do our tomato juice for 45 minutes in the water bath canner and the salsa for 15 minutes in the water bath canner. I'm gonna put a little bit of lemon juice in the bottom of my jars just for the acidic factor. Earlier in the day I said I was only going to work when Cleo napped, but obviously you can see her totting around in the background. I just wanted to get this done, and she was being really cooperative this day, and I thought let's strike while the iron's hot and just get it done. So I went ahead and just started loading in my tomato juices. I didn't have quite enough as I thought I did for quarts, so I ended up taking that leftover quart and putting it into some half pints, and I thought those half pints would be really nice to have maybe around the holidays or on a Friday night. If Joe's whipping up a fish fry, we could have some Bloody Marys maybe with some of those, so I thought that would be nice. Or maybe even if one of my kids just wanted to have a little drink of tomato juice, which we do sometimes. So I went ahead and wiped my rims off. I also ended up getting 2 quarts of that house-made salsa. I'm not sure how we feel about this house-made salsa. I can see us cooking with it a lot for sure. I don't know if we'll use it to dip in for chips, but I guess only time will tell. It might change as the winter goes on, but I was excited to do a different project here, so here I am putting that quart sized in some of these half pints. I ended up getting 2 of those, which is really great, and I'm excited to have some variation. I get comments all the time about, I don't know how you manage, just talking about how do you do things with kids. Well, here's a prime example. This is what you guys don't see very often, because I do make an effort not to show my kids as much as possible, and this is just how, in all honesty, I get things done. You can see my son is up here. He's playing with Legos. I try to keep tabletop toys available during canning season or on days when I'm in the kitchen. I try to designate one chair up on the island for a space for him because my older girls are at school, so I really only have to entertain him, and I'll bring out the Legos, I'll bring out sticker books, colors, kind of whatever he wants to play with, and then I can talk to him, I can play with him while I'm still getting some things done. So we're cleaning out the broccoli here. I already had this soaking in salt water, and this is drained off and rinsed. So I was just cleaning it up, chopping off anything that I didn't want on there, getting this in the pot to blanch, and then kind of the whole time going back and forth between him and Cleo in between my feet, trying to get the dishwasher going, trying to get the kitchen cleaned up a little bit, just making the most out of my time while my kids are kind of content. And then once I get everything kind of going where I need it to be, my dishwasher's going, my stuff is blanching, I'll come back up on the counter with him and really just play with him while things are going. This is a Brussels sprout and broccoli mix. It's just whatever was down in the garden that I picked today. I'm just gonna let this cool off, and then I'll throw this in a gallon-sized Ziploc freezer bag to be able to use throughout the winter months. How I would cook with this is I would just take out my gallon-sized bag, break it apart a little bit, throw in what I wanted either in a pot or on a cookie sheet to bake, and we would roast it or drop it in a steamer and steam it. Lots of options here, but I'm not separating the broccoli from the Brussels sprouts. I'm just gonna leave them together and we'll do it this way. So this is how I'm going to leave it for now. I'm just gonna let these cool a little bit. I want to wash up these dishes that I have in my sink. It looks like a lot, but it's just big pots. My water bath canner is just now coming up to a boil, so I can get these washed up and drying. My dishwasher is already loaded and going, and then I'll feel pretty good because I would have gotten some tomato sauce done, our crock pot meal, all the peppers, all the salsa, plus some freezer salsa bag. I'm feeling really good about today. Now tomorrow, all I have to do is blanch and freeze some cabbage, and I have a whole basket of pickles that I need to deal with, but those will be for tomorrow. And I think those are pickles are kind of labor intensive, so we'll see what happens. I kind of wanted to make pickle relish, but I don't know if I have the patience, I should say, to dice my cucumbers into sizes for pickle relish. So I might just end up making more pickles. I don't know, we're gonna see what happens. I also saw a recipe for a cucumber salsa I might try to do. I don't know, I've got some ideas. I just have to figure out exactly what I'm doing. But for now, let's wash these dishes, finish up the kitchen projects for the day, and then all I have to do is pull my stuff out of the water bath canner and I'll be completely done and making pretty good progress. It's 1:45, so I have plenty of time to do these couple of things here and sit down and relax and kind of hang out with my kids just for a little bit before the older girls get home from school and we can head to the park. So let's get those taken care of. Also, here's what our crock pot meal is looking like after I added some of the salsa. It smells fantastic. My chicken is just now getting to the point where it's really broken apart and gonna get nice and tender, which is really nice. It seems like a lot of liquid personally, but I just followed the recipe, so I don't know, maybe it'll thicken up. Who knows? But in a little bit I'll add the queso and we'll have that with tacos with fresh lettuce or sour cream, cheese, whatever anybody wants. So I went ahead and wanted to get these big dishes cleaned up. I don't always clean up after a canning day, but I really try to, especially this time of year when I know pretty much every single day back to back to back I'm going to be in the kitchen doing some sort of preserving. And my kitchen is small. It's not as small as it could be. I've definitely had smaller kitchens in some of our military housing for sure, but when you're doing a lot of things from scratch, you're feeding 6 people, you're working on, you know, preserving 100+ pounds of tomatoes, it can get pretty tight pretty quick. So I try my absolute best to clean my kitchen up after every project, even if that means I wait until my husband gets home and he helps me clean up the kitchen, or he juggles some of the kids and we can be more of a team. That happens more often than not, just because it can be a big task, let's be honest. Heading into our crock pot meal, I ended up making these into quesadillas, and guys, these will hit our rotation. These are fantastic. We paired them with watermelon. I hope that you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for spending the day in the kitchen with me, and I can't wait to see you until next time.